We're about to go on our most daring journey yet, to sail the entire Brazilian coast from the cold waters of the south to the paradise islands of the north.
Finally!
We are going to encounter longer passages and heavier seas. So, before we set sail, we decided to go back to the one place we know that can help us with the upgrades we need for this new phase.
Home sweet home!
Welcome back to the shipyard. Well, almost. First day at the shipyard. Just woke up, had a quick breakfast. I'm still gonna have a coffee, but mission number one, find some old scruffy jeans and some work boots, or at least something I can work in. Because it's been a while that I've needed it, because every time we work on the boat, it's just in swim shorts and topless or a t-shirt on. So I'm gonna have a quick coffee, head under the beds and see if I can find all the old scruffy gear, and then we'll head over to land and plan what we're gonna start with. Okay, last enjoyment of peace before the chaos starts. We knew from day one our sails were on borrowed time, but we needed to test them and Yabá before committing to a major change. Now they're giving up. Every time we head out, they rip in a new place. But instead of just replacing old with new, we are choosing to evolve. We're switching to a gaff rig. This isn't a buy and install upgrade, it's complete transformation, and it starts right here, building our new spars from scratch. Let's go. Now the first mission is to get onto the shipyard, and you'll see what I mean. If we don't get lifted soon, that's going to go bad one day. I bet lots of you are thinking, who is the team going to be working on the boat now to get everything done? Now, we're not sure how it's going to develop, mas já temos Nico no equipe. We already have Nico in the team. He's going to help me get the both gaffs off the boom. We can really start working on them until we can get the boat a bit closer, because going on and off the boat is not an easy job, and we're just going to wait at least to be over there before doing some boat work, some putting the extension cables across. Vamos fazer muito no barco já? Vamos trabalhar muito no barco. Serviço para fazer.
There's one more challenge. As you heard, our master shipwright Zeca is out of action after his parachute accident. The responsibility of crafting these spars has fallen onto Ben's shoulders. But he's not alone. Our faithful Nico is right there by his side. Building a gaff and a boom from scratch is a massive undertaking. With the clock ticking, there's no room for mistakes. It's time to see if everything we've learned has prepared us for this moment.
Out of everything, having this on land instead of doing everything on the boat was something I was looking forward to a lot. I was dreading bringing these up to the roof again, making everything sandy, having to put the tarp down. Now, what I'm going to do first, I can see there's a tiny gap here, and then don't know if that's a gap or if it's whatever. I'm going to just put some resin in there, put some clamps on, make sure everything's shut, and then we can start rounding these, because The plan is to round this as big as possible. Once it's rounded, we can then measure the diameter, go to the metal shop and get the rings for it. Of course, I want to make the wood based on the ring and not the ring based on the wood, because I don't know, working with metal is just so much harder and harder to get accurate. So what we'll do is get the rings to fasten the pulleys onto, put them on and start grinding down so then it's fit nice and snug and tight. That is some high quality stuff. The plan is to do that anywhere over here where there's a small gap. Let it all sink down, keep applying until it reaches the bottom, or maybe even flip it around, and then it should be good to round these. Day one and our neighboring boat is already going to launch, so our plan is to move. Already, we just arrived. Our plan was to float around and watch that boat launch. However, something broke when they were going down from the winch, so they're going to just fix that. And I'll film it from land, but at least it gives us a bit more time to dock up against this boat. We're going to move locations a little bit. Instead of mooring up the same boats we were at before, we came next to this whale research vessel over here with our neighbors. First day and we've already had distractions. You might be thinking, why are you doing this now? Why don't you round it and then fill? Because the key word in there is filling. By doing this, by filling up these gaps a tiny bit and just squeezing the planks together, I consider it gluing still. So by gluing, you're bringing one plank to the next. If we were to round it and then fill all the gaps with epoxy and then sandwich them together, it won't be round, if you see what I mean. So by doing this, we're getting all the 4 planks as close to each other as possible, nicely glued with as little resin as possible, and then later we can round it. Remember when we were clamping these, or I was gluing these together on top of the boat, we ran out of clamps and it was a disaster. So now at least we have some small clamps from the shipyard which we can use, as you can see over there. So they're the clamps that we use to fasten the planks onto the hull. This is actually, no joke, one of their small clamps. The big clamps, well, you got the medium ones here, and you got the big ones here, which are absolutely huge. Really nice first day of work. We really wanted to focus on getting these gaffs ready for tomorrow. Anyway, really cool first day at the yard. Yesterday I was quite excited for today because we're going to turn these into something that actually looks like a gaff. So the plan is to get one of the sides of each of these as flat as possible, as perpendicular as possible to the flat side over here. And stick it in the flattener, because this is now, let me think, 10 centimeters by 9 centimeters, and we want it 9 by 9 before we even think about making this round. Now that they're quite sanded, we're going to bring them to 9 centimeters by 9 centimeters and keep planing millimeter by millimeter, or flattening actually, until it's a perfect square over here without anything sticking up from any of the sides.
Você vai fazer. Você vai botar ele aqui, ó, travar ele aqui, trava ele aqui.
What we're doing now is super important. Little tips from Master Zeka is finding the middle point, figuring out the diameter that we want, and then we're going to draw lines from here to the other side on each, 2 lines on each face of this plank over here that we're going to use as guide for a planer later, and we're going to put the tips facing upwards. What we're using for the next step is what we call in Portuguese or in Brazil a graminho. It literally, you place the nail exactly where you want compared to this little cool edge here. You hold it against it and the nail will always make the stripe in the same distance. So Nico's just going over with a pencil so we see it better. So I did it on this side like so, then you just copy it on the other side like so, and then we do it, what is it, 8 times in total.
Meu sonho é dia fazer o que vocês fizeram.
And this is the, well, I was going to call it finished product, even though it all looks exactly the same, except you can see every single of these sides has 2 stripes on it, which is really, really cool. Later after lunch, we're just going to flip it up so the points are sticking up, and we're going to plane from here on that line to that line. If you don't get it, don't worry, you'll see it in a bit, but first let's go and grab a nice lunch. Nice full bellies, a bunch of energy. What they call it here in Brazil is, have you had your rice and beans? Yes, I have, so that means you have lots of energy. Now we need to find a way to get this to sit nice and straight like so. So we're just gonna probably do some cutting. We might clamp it, I don't know. But we need a couple of jigs just to keep these straight. I found the planer, it took me forever. We've got new blades in them, so that should be nice as well. And then we're gonna just start, I don't know, it might take all afternoon, I wouldn't be amazed. I'm gonna start making these round and round, hopefully today, maybe tomorrow, and then we can start figuring out what to do next. But this is gonna look absolutely epic, and I might get some earplugs because this stuff gets loud. Now that they're all nice and square, we are going to make them unsquare by taking each of the corners off one by one. For that, we made a really small plywood jig over here. So the lines we've made before, which is this and this up here, we're just going to go over and over and over and over with a hand planer, and then it should look very, very round. So this is going to take a while, bit of patience, but it'll be nice. We are going through blades on this thing like there is no tomorrow, cleaning that gaff. So what we are doing now, we have all come to the boat, the entire team, to not waste any time, which is us and Nico. And we put Nico for now on working on some of the varnish.
As many of you could already tell, it really is time to redo the varnish. And the truth is that we applied this very blah 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 excellent varnish, 10 layers of it, 10 coats of it, and still in less than 2 years it was time to redo it. So we were a bit disappointed. We were expecting it would last longer. And the thing about varnish is the way of fixing it now is stripping it down, sending it back to bare wood, and then varnishing again. We don't feel like doing that because we need to go back to bare wood, but then back to 10 coats to then in 1 year have to go back to bare wood really feels like a waste. So this time we're gonna put all our bets on settle deck and see what it will do for us. If it will be just easier maintenance because you don't need to bring it back to bare wood. After 3, 4, 6 months we're gonna evaluate that. We can just reapply it on top and we're gonna see if we like the result. So that's what's gonna change now about our varnish. Instead of applying the same varnish we did, we're gonna replace it to settle, but of course before we do that we do need to sand it down to bare wood. And no one better than Nico to help us with that task. To know if it's silly of me to feel emotional watching Nico working on the boat once again. I want to know if it's just me or if you guys are also enjoying this scene so much. We didn't know we were ever coming back, and being here, it's been really special. To be honest, we really thought we'd be on the dry by now. But the stars had other plans. When the sun, moon, and earth line up during a full or a new moon, their gravity pulls the ocean together, creating what we call a spring tide, when the highs are higher and the lows are much lower. But right now, we are in a neap tide. The sun and moon are pulling against each other, leaving us with a smaller tidal range. And even the high tide now is just too shallow for Yabá to reach the crib. A small detail, which is a shame, but we won't let that stop us.
So yesterday we managed to get this far with one of these. It was a lot of kind of practice figuring out how the planer works, because we fixed that planer and we never really used it. So now that that planer is ready to be used, this one should go a lot faster. I'll finish the gaffs today and then we can move over to some other stuff, but I just want to show you guys why we're not lifted yet. So there is a fishing boat that was supposed to be lifted next door, but their winch broke, so he's lifting here, and it's a way smaller, way lower draft boat than we have, and they are struggling to even get him out of the water. I think just they managed to get him on the crib, get the crib low enough for him to be on it, but there's people in the water, there's anything to get that boat up. So this is not a way we want to lift our boat, or at least start the lift. So we might wait a little bit longer for the tide to be a lot higher. It's going up. High tide is 10 centimeters higher each day from now on, so that's really going to help. And then we can really take our time and lift properly. In order for them to get this to work, both the fishing boat and the crib were touching that green boat behind it. They really tested the limits, but this, I mean, if you're in the fishing industry, you can't afford to not be working. So anything to get this boat up, I've heard from him that all he needs to do is just the bottom paint, a bit like us really, and head back in. Anyway, lunchtime, it is so hot. I think it's at least 30 in the shade, and I think outside the shade 1,000,000 degrees. But yeah, tomorrow's cooling down again, which would be nice. Anyway, lunch, I'm back to work. This to me is looking pretty epic, as well as that one over there. Now, the proper way to do this is to measure a certain distance from this tip outwards and that tip outwards, and only plane down towards that. But that's going to take a lot of effort for little results, in my opinion. So we got our hands on a very big planer. Now, not big as in strong necessarily, but you see the surface of it is very, very large, which we're going to benefit from. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over each of these tips over here, like there, once, and then we're going to remove all these tips, and then all we're going to do next is get the grinder and make it nice and round. And again, and again, and again, and again, and again, until it's ready to be sanded. I got into this never-ending phase of wanting perfection, so I thought I'd better stop now. If I keep going and wanting it rounder and rounder, we'll be left with 2 twigs. I'm very, very happy with what these are like. You can see that hang on. From far, they look very round, no, I'm kidding. But now I'm gonna get out the grinder, I'm gonna have a rest. My God, this noise of the planer is quite a pain. I'm gonna have a quick rest, get the grinder out, and then just take out all the little imperfections, and it should look spotless. Just came back to the boat, and so you know what's happening parallel to that, Nico has been scraping all the old varnish off. We've collected it all in a bucket here, and look at that. There we go now. I don't think there's that much more to do except to get the big grinder. We've got a few different grits of sanding paper, and we're just gonna start getting rid of all the little bumps and whatever's left on here. Alright, so let's get dusty. We've got the wind working in our favor, blowing it away from us, which is nice. Is this round or is this round? For me, this is definitely round enough, and it's definitely going to hold the gaff up. It's nice and light and flexible and strong. I'm already going to take the diameter of it, like 9 exactly. Ooh, 8.9 and 9. That's really good, because now I can take this diameter and already start working on the metal work, or find someone who will do it for us. I'm very, very excited to see this palm sanded, varnished, and with the stainless shiny metal on. Of course, there's still the boot to be made in the same way. It's going to consist out of 5 2cm planks, but I'm not going to round it. I'm going to round the edges, but it's going to be a square or a rectangular. Now that we've pretty much got the gaffs as far as we can get before the metal work arrives, I've also done a few small drawings that I sent to the welder so that we can have some of the rings made that go on it. So until then, start working on some other stuff. Nico is still doing an amazing job with all the varnishing. We've got all the rest to do. He's working on the other side. But there's something I've been wanting to do for a while, and I have been doing for a while, but not correctly as we were underway. What I'm going to do is, in the deck, there are tiny cracks between the caulking compound of the planks and the plank itself. So this stuff itself hasn't torn, it's literally just come unstuck from the wood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just remove all of the bits with the tiny cracks with this. The bits that are still good I'm going to leave. There's no reason to fix what's not broken. I'm going to go and get some caulking compound and chuck that over the top. Caulking cotton and caulking compound, chuck that over the top in the grooves. Over here is a small example of one I haven't done yet. The reason I'm doing this now and I haven't put any other jobs as a priority is it's supposed to be tipping it down for the next few days. So I really want to get this done today while it's nice and hot. The planks are very, very, very dry after this dry weather. So they are kind of like the seams would not open more than this. So when I caulk it like this, it's the best time to do it.
That we don't show because it's so boring, but just so you don't think that Ben is working by himself and I'm doing nothing, I'm the one that's driving everywhere, trying to get the parts we need, the pieces we need, talk to some suppliers, and that has been my job pretty much this week. But I'm not useless, come on guys.
It's been a while now. This practice has been preached by me. We've got Nico at the bow in case we need help, but what more is it to making sure the thickness is thick enough? We have a very, very fancy caulking iron and a massive hammer. What I have realized, and I've also been doing a bit of research on why this opens and cracks, is if the seam is too thick or too deep, the caulking compound doesn't sit well and cracks. So if you want to kind of have enough caulking compound or Sikaflex or PU, whatever you want, for it to seal it, but not seal it with only the compound. So now I think I've got about 1/2 centimeter throughout the whole seam, which is just about fine for just the compound to sit on top. And let's continue this on all the rest.
Before the rain.
Before the rain, it's coming. It's black over there. not sure how much the tape's actually going to work. I just grabbed whatever I could find because with whatever is coming here, I don't think we're going to have enough time to put any caulking compound on, but I don't want any water just flowing through anyway. So let's keep it maybe as dry as we can. And then when it dries up, at least the weather does, we can put some caulking compound on. Even though we couldn't lift Yabá out of the water just yet, we still managed to make real progress on our new rigging. Next time, we continue building our new wooden boom and start shaping the jaws that will hold the gaff to the mast. There's a fine line between making them strong enough and making them too heavy. Don't forget to tune in next Sunday to see how that turns out.